Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Thursday's edition of Morning Cuppa Hockey presented by Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets, whatever the sport, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. So use our new code NATION, NATION in all caps. Across me is Colby Cohen. I'm Johnny Lazarus. We got Andrew Raycroft coming on the show here shortly. We'll talk about all the goaltenders that are doing well, that are struggling in the NHL thus far, and we'll get into the Boston Bruins and what might be wrong with them in the early going as they take on the Dallas Stars tonight. I feel like we've watched a lot of Washington Capitals versus Philadelphia Flyers in the last 2 days, so that's fresh on everybody's minds. Those are the two games that I really watched in the last 2 days. Obviously, last night it was the only one. But, Colby, any takeaways from last night's game just before we get Razor on here?
You know what? It's easy to sit here and say, oh, the Caps beat the Flyers again. The Flyers are not a good hockey team or whatever. But look, good hockey teams take care of business when they play teams that aren't good clubs, right? And I'll actually give the Flyers a little bit of credit for having a little bit of pushback last night. I mean, that game could have been ugly quick. I think
I was going to challenge you and say, did Washington really take care of business?
Well, listen, you get up 4-0 on the second part of a home and home against a team you just beat. Yeah. I would say so. There's no easy nights in the National Hockey League. And look, the Flyers pushed. Washington gets a save on Morgan Frost. A lot of people thought it might have even been a goal.
That had to go in.
No, it didn't. I disagree.
No. I'm talking about the wraparound that Morgan Frost had.
I'm talking about the breakaway. Not the wraparound. But I'm just saying it's 4-2. The Flyers have all the momentum. Logan Thompson comes up with a save on that breakaway. That would have made it 4-3. So yeah, I'm gonna give Washington credit. It's not easy to beat a team in the NHL 2 nights in a row. So you have to like what you're seeing out of the back end. You're getting different contributions. I love that. Was it McMichael on that little high tip play from Trevor Van Reams, who's always got his head up?
It was McElrath that made the pass, and the tip was by it was a righty. I'm
talking about the one where Trevor Van Reams had that little shot pass into the mid area of the the slot or whatever. It was like a little redirection.
Not the first goal of the game?
Not the first goal. No, I'm talking like third, fourth goal, maybe.
Yeah, you're right. That was the fourth one.
It was just a good little heads up play by Trevor Van Reams. I mean, look, Fedotov, I think at one point it was like 3-on-9. You know what I mean? Like, is this guy an NHL goaltender? I mean, I don't know why he was just given this contract and like, hey, here you go. You come from the KHL. Especially after being in the northern part of Russia on the border, in the army for a year, not playing. So that's the goal I was talking about right there. Good goal there, Vic. My point just being is I like their back end, man. They're mobile. They're efficient. They're not flashy. John Carlson's playing good hockey. I mean, that's such a heads up play. Trevor Van Riemsdyk is one of the most underappreciated players in the National Hockey League. Any coach who he's played for, they just love this guy because he's so predictable and he's so reliable. And I say that in the best way possible. Like when you're building a team, you love having a guy like that. So Flyers did show a little bit of life, Johnny, but ultimately, I don't know. Like if you're expecting Michkov to carry you offensively this year, you're a lottery team. Yeah. You are. So, those were kind of my thoughts. More bad goaltending in Philly. I'm not going to sit here and say that's why they're losing because I don't think him and Urson have been horrible. Fedotov hasn't been very good. I don't think Urson's been horrible, but you're not scoring and you're not getting a goaltending. That's problematic.
Yeah. And the end of the game, Colby, you and I were kind of laughing about it last night in our group chat. The slamming of the sticks, the breaking of the sticks. Michkov does one. Drysdale breaks his over the crossbar. The frustration is settling in early, and the Flyers have lost 6 straight games. Yeah, it was. I mean,
I was laughing to see 2 guys smash their stick off the post at the same time. I thought that was funny. I was like, I said to my wife, look up, watch this. And like, even she laughed.
But I mean, that first empty net goal, I think it was PLD that scored it. Drysdale and
Let's talk about it.
Smula.
Let's
Drysdale
talk
and
about what Igor
Smula.
Smula did.
Smula's
Okay.
turns his body open to receive a pass. Drysdale looks up at him and I don't know what in his mind.
Okay, so that's not my problem. I'm going to tell you my problem.
It can't be Drysdale.
This play. No, hold on. Cardinal sin. You do not pass a puck towards the bench when your team is changing at any point of a hockey game. Like, that is something that you learn at what age, Johnny? Juniors?
Well, in this case, though, Samula's opening up for the pass. He didn't look like he was going to the bench. He's at the red line, skates back to the blue, pivots, opens up, and gives it like 2 seconds and then gets off.
I'm just saying, you don't pass a puck towards the bench while your team is changing for that reason exactly. Why would you put your let me ask you a question. Have you ever heard that before, or
no,
like, you have, right? What age
did
we learn that? What age?
You learn that when it's
I can tell you for me. I learned that when I was 15 going on 16, just starting with the U.S. national team. And that was kind of pointed out to us by our coaching staff. And it's like, you never pass a puck towards the bench when your team is changing. What age do you remember, that?
I feel like it was actually Craig and like Vinny Smith for me. So that was like 11th grade. So yeah, like 16, 17.
Right. So like that is a cardinal rule. So yes, Zamula, like, you can't do that, but also Drysdale, keep the puck away from your bench when guys are coming on and off the ice. There's no reason to put that back in towards the bench. Like, I'm not blaming necessarily one or the other, but don't put your team in that situation. Like, I think that's a really dumb play by Drysdale. Like, I really do. I think that's, it's just, you're probably mentally fatigued, and usually when you're physically fatigued,
first thing that goes is your mind.
Yeah. Your brain goes, right? So why don't we Andrew Raycroft is here. We're going to spend a bunch
who's
of
to blame,
time
Razor? Let's get
and why don't you, I think you got to read him in here with something here, Johnny, and then we'll bring Razor in and we'll start talking to him.
So before we bring Razor on, just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Proraso, the most complete choice for shaving and beard care, made in Italy since 1948. Proraso has been a staple of Italian culture and barbershops globally for 4 generations. So get 15% off at Proraso-USA.com with our promo code Hockey15. Let's bring in Andrew Raycroft and let's ask, who's to blame here on that 5th goal, the empty net goal for PLD last night? Was it Drysdale or Samula? Pick one. You can't get out of it.
Well, I'll go. I just heard Colby's side of the argument mostly there as I checked in, so I'll go with him and blame it on Drysdale, I guess.
Well,
I didn't see it. I don't have no idea.
No, so let me just ask you though, in general, like, because you're a goalie, so you have a little bit of a different vantage point on just about anything that happens in the game. Is that kind of a cardinal rule that we learn as young hockey players, that you don't want to throw the puck towards the bench when you're trying to change and get new, fresh bodies, just like for that reason, to be safe?
No, of course you have to play away from the bench in a bunch of different circumstances out there, and especially when you have a couple guys changing. Now, sometimes D go, you guys know this, that they go D to D without really recognizing that a change is happening. So I would have to watch, was it an ill-advised change on the other side as well? That it could also be an ill-advised change where, hey, my D partner's in trouble over here on the left side. I've got to hold on 20 more seconds to be able to be an outlet for him if he continues to get himself in trouble, rather than changing. So there's a bunch of gray area on the communication, but typically the guy who throws the puck towards the bench when there's a change going on is at fault in the NHL.
All right, well, that's a pretty good breakdown for a guy who didn't see the play. But let's transition and get into what you got going on tonight, because you're doing your first Altcast on Nesson with Tuukka Rask and Patrice Bergeron. Is it called something? I haven't seen a name for it yet.
It's called Unobstructed Views.
Okay.
They did it for the Red Sox at Nesson with a bunch of people. Patrice and Tukes and I are going to do it 6 times for the Bruins games. Tonight's the first rip at it, and there's a lot of pressure on me to guide these guys through. the night.
You're the veteran of the three as far as TV goes. So you're kind of hosting this thing, I would assume.
That is the idea. Now, they've been very gracious in explaining that if we're just talking, we're just going to hang out. Don't worry about getting to commercial too much, but nonetheless, as you guys know, with your great sponsors, you gotta get some good reads out too at the right time.
Yeah, and we actually want to hype it up because we do have the commercial here ready to be played. Vic's got it queued up here, so let's give our listeners a look into what we're talking about.
Bruins fans, we're trying out something new this season that we think you'll really enjoy. Tuukka, Bergie, and I will be breaking down the live game for everyone watching at home. We'll be joined by some very special guests, and you will not want to miss it. Tune in on NESN Plus or NESN 360.
So essentially, it's just the Boston Bruins version of Manicast, right? Is that kind of what you're going for?
Precisely. Yep. That's exactly what it is. So we're going to have, I believe Adam McQuaid's coming in to hang out with us for the second period tonight. So we'll have guests.
Darth
obviously.
Quader, I love it. I love it.
Yeah. With Patrice in the mix, it's amazing how quickly everyone gets back to you and is happy to come on and help out. So he's a big pull, of course, and he hasn't done it very much. So we're looking forward to getting some insight that no one else has gotten from Bergie and then me and Tuukka.
You're bringing in, I mean, obviously you've been doing TV, right? So you kind of know the ins and outs of it, but you got two guys who have very, very high hockey IQ. Like when you talk hockey with Tuukka, you're like, whoa, like you're not surprised this guy was so good because his mind for the game and it always really impressed me. Like, I mean, he kind of has that chess brain where he's a couple of pieces ahead of players and reading plays. And I mean, I think that's one of the things that just made him so good and so hard to score on.
No question. And yeah, that's my job to kind of get that out of them. Hopefully the game's good tonight, but again, it will be a lot of that. Just, you know, what did you guys see? A lot of penalty kill talk with Bergie and how he played with Marshy. And so much can tie in. We got Tyler Seguin tonight, so we'll be talking, 2011, and so it should be really cool. I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays out. But of course, those two guys are just like you said, so knowledgeable and have great personalities. I think it should be fun.
I actually have a couple questions about this too, because I find it very interesting. I think every team in the NHL should do something like this, especially in those games like, Razor, if you're watching a 5-0 game, you don't really necessarily care about what the broadcast is saying, right? Because it's a game that's kind of out of hand. It'd be cool to hear stories during that, right? Obviously, in a tie hockey game in the third period, it might be a different story, it might be tougher. But where did this idea kind of stem from? Was it from the Red Sox Allcast that they did, and it was so successful, I imagine?
Correct. It's and of course, from the Manicast. And the big thing is with NESN is they have two channels, so it's very easy to do. So you can flip back and forth very easily. NESN will have Brick and Judd and doing their thing, and then we'll be over on the other station. So I think it's convenience in that. And yes, the unobstructed views was so good with the Red Sox. They wanted to crank this out, and then of course to be able to, I don't think in our wildest dreams we were going to get both Patrice and Tuukka on board for 5 or 6 shows, but we've done that, and that's really added a lot of spice to it.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about the Bruins while we have you, because I don't think this was the start that anybody imagined. Having watched them a couple of games, I'm wondering and where, with Marshy coming off of a couple of surgeries, and he's probably going to take a little bit of time to really find his touch. And where's the scoring going to come from on this team? Because look, they seem to me to have a lot of guys looking at their lineup that are more suited for like a bottom 6 or maybe middle 6 type of role. And you don't necessarily see, obviously Pasta is a little bit of a different story, but those natural scoring offensive threats and the back end is bigger. To me, have looked a little bit slower, even though they are big and strong. So I'm curious, like where's the offense going to come from if Marshy's not able to find his form for at least another month or two?
No, that's what's being talked about right now, and that was the question going in. I don't think to this extent. I think losing Jake DeBrusk, who's right wing too, and that hasn't been answered by any means. And there was a lot of talk going into the season. Okay, Morgan Geekie took a big step last year. Can he take another? Trent Frederick took a big step. Can he take another? Charlie Coyle had his point numbers at his highest in his career. Can he take another step? And through 7 games, unfortunately, they haven't. And that's where it's stunted the Bruins' early season. Now, can that turn around tonight, this weekend, 3-game homestand? Of course, it's very early, but I think it's also kind of the style of play. Is can you play a puck possession game like Jim Montgomery likes with this group? Is it more of a ground and pound, put pucks to the net and simplify a little bit here over the next couple of weeks to get back to getting some ugly, greasy rebound goals that they did a good job of last year? I believe they were first in the league in rebound goals last season. So can they get back to that? I think the D's fine. I think what's happened is they've played slow because they've been trying to make plays up the middle of the ice, and they're better off the Florida model, punting, rimming, getting pucks out, and letting the forwards go play rather than trying to make backhand passes to the middle of the ice. That's slowed them down a little bit here at the start and made the D a little bit slower. I think they can move the puck quicker, a little more north-south, but again, and I, like you guys know, until you actually score, it's an issue. Like until you actually start putting points on the board as a group and of course individually to start the season, if you've gone 7 games and haven't scored or only have 1, you feel like you're struggling. You feel like you're on the struggle bus, and I think there's a few of those guys here in Boston right now.
Well, let me ask you that question too, because I haven't really seen anyone talking about this. I'm sure it's being talked about in Boston, but maybe not at a national scale. The fourth line of Koepke, Kastelik, and Beecher Beecher and Kastelik are both +8, and Koepke is +10. Essentially, everyone else on the Bruins is a minus. Like, what the hell is going on there that your fourth line has such a high plus-minus rating, and they seem to be leading the way when it comes to scoring? Like, obviously, you want depth scoring on your lineup, but you don't want those guys leading the way. That's a striking issue, it seems.
No, you don't want that group scoring 10 of your 13 5-on-5 goals through the first 7 games of the season.
Problematic.
That's problematic, and it's fantastic for those guys. But it goes back to my last answer in that they play direct. They've played direct since the first game of preseason. Mark Kastelik has been in every scrum since the start of the season. Every time he's on the ice, something happens, and it's direct. Beecher's flying. He's able to he's really got his legs going, and those 2 other guys have made space for him. So it goes back to that directness that line has played with more so than the others. Of course, David Pasternak's line is not going to be a direct line. They're east, west, north, south, all over the place. They're allowed to do that, but that middle 6 could be a little bit more direct, I believe, to get themselves going into this season.
All right, Razor, let's move off the Bruins and hit you with a couple of non-Bruins related things, because I think goaltending is kind of a big story to me in the National Hockey League right now. All these guys are signing for 8.25. You were on the front lines of the one in Boston, which was the big one. It seemed like the first domino. I just want you to know, I've been on the record as of late, and I've said that these guys are all underpaid. And I don't know if that's because I've been hanging around at the agency with all you goalies for too many years, with you and Hutz and, DeSmith. I mean, it was like the goaltending agency I ended up with. But, I look at what Igor Shesterkin is looking for, and I'd pay him. And I think $12 million is a reasonable number. And I think Jeremy Swayman as an unrestricted free agent could have got 9 or 9.5. And I think Jake Ottinger as an unrestricted could have got $9 million. Like, to me, I think all these guys are underpaid. And maybe that's the defenseman in me, just knowing how important these guys are for confidence and for bailing out all my bad defensive mistakes. But, what do you make of the resetting of the goalie market, this 8.25 number, the Shesterkin deal? Because you are a fellow member of that tribe. So I'm curious from your point of view, how you feel about it all.
Yeah, it's an interesting cycle we're in where the big young guys are up. They're all up. And whether it's an Ottinger bridge deal is over or a Swayman restricted and arbitration, etc. And now Shesterkin being unrestricted. I think with the cap going up, these deals, like you said, are going to be favorable for the teams in a couple of years, because again, we're talking about goaltenders who are 26, 27, 28. We're not talking about guys when I played that were unrestricted at 31, 32, the Cujos of the world signing 8-year deals at 33 years old. It's different now. And these guys are going to play through these deals. And I couldn't agree more that they're going to be underpaid at the end. The Shesterkin one's a big number. It's going to be a huge number. Obviously, when he's turning down 11 per year, that's big boy money. But again, look how good he is. He's so good. Like, are the Rangers winning with any other goalie? Are they going to win a Stanley Cup with any other goalie? No, they're not. And that's where they have them. And again, if you get up over $100 million in the next 4 years in a salary cap, then you're paying Shesterkin less than 10% or around 10%. You can make that work, and you can still field a team with a guy like that in front of you. So $92 million seems about right. I looked it up. So this is why I think 92 is right about right for Shesterkin. Of course, he's got a lot of money coming in outside of hockey, but his hockey numbers right around 18. That's a nice, smooth 110 million in your career. And that's kind of like, guys look at the big number, right? It doesn't really matter. AAV, they don't care. They don't care. They want the career number to be as high as absolutely possible. And I think that 92 is probably going to work for Shesty.
Well, let me ask you more about that too, because obviously you're hearing so many different sides of that argument. But the one thing that I think that isn't talked about enough is when you talk about top 10 players in the NHL, I think Igor should be paid as one of those guys, because you made the point, Razor, like, where are the Rangers in the playoffs without him? But then on the flip side, it's like, we've now seen this guy perform as good as he possibly can in the playoffs, and it's not enough for the team in front of him to get over the hump. So if you're using all that money on him, what can you do to build the team around him that can take that extra step? It seems to be the flip-flop of sides. But like, the argument that I've been disagreeing with is when people say, and honestly, I love Rupper, so I hate that I'm disagreeing with him, but he was like,
Merle's is saying it in the chat right now. We got Merle's saying
what they're saying, the goalies don't impact the 82 games in the regular season. Is that
Merle's is saying $8 million when a goalie, if healthy, plays 60 to 70% of the game.
Yeah.
So $8 million is fair because of that reason.
I disagree. Merle's like your goalie is going to win you 16 games in the spring. They're playing every game in the playoffs. And I know the saying is, you make your money in the regular season, you make your name in the playoffs. But like, the Rangers are paying Igor Shesterkin to win 16 games in April, May, and June. Like, they're not paying him to win a Vezina trophy. They're not paying him to get 40 wins in the regular season. And that's why I think that the point is being a little bit lost when, he is the most important player on his team. He should be paid as so.
Yeah. And
I got lost there, Razor. My bad on the question.
No, the 60 to 70%, right? Like, the best scorers in the world, the Austin Matthews, only score in 52% of the games. So really, like, you
not him.
Make the argument you're paying Matthews to score in 52 games. The other, he's mailing in 30 games, guys. Like, the best players in the league are mailing in 30 games.
100%.
I mean, Matthews just had 69. I don't know if he's the best example.
Well, once.
What's that? No, but he
just
scored.
had 69 goals.
I'm saying I bet he scored at 3. How many hat tricks did he have?
So
I'm saying 50. I bet he only scored in 45 of those games.
50 Vic will have that number in 2 seconds.
Yeah, so get that number. How many times did he score in a game?
No, that's a really good counter. Honestly,
I agree.
That's a very, very logical response. And like, Merles, what do you think? Like, get in the chat, buddy. Respond to Razor here, and because he's making a pretty good counter argument to you.
And then the other thing with the money, right, and how these teams build, you're not building. Nobody gets to free agency anymore. So this idea that you have to have $10 million every summer kicking around to go pick up the best free agent, like, they're not there anymore. There was one centerman, Elias Lindholm, this past year. No other centermen were worth paying money for at a high level. And no disrespect to the guys that made $4 million, but I'm saying the big boys. You have to draft. You have to have young guys that kick into your lineup. You have to have a few guys on your bridge deal that are out kicking their weight in contract. That's how you win. That's what the Florida Panthers have done. Or you live in Florida. You have low taxes. Old guys go there on big discounts to live on the beach. Their wives love it. They get a little bit of extra money on the taxes, and they've already made 50 sheets in the league. So that's the model. It's not It's not going out and spending money every summer. They're just, guys don't make it to free agency if they're good anymore. Like, again, Verhaeghe's, like these guys get signed. They just do. They find ways to get signed.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I think that's that's a whole nother story. All right. I'm going to ask you to put your GM hat on before we let you go. Okay. We know there's 4 really, really good goalies for Team USA this year, and you've got your American flag on your hat. I love it. You're a dual citizen now. We will take you with open arms because we just need good goalies here in the US, Razor. The Wellington Dukes are going to have to forget about the Canadian flag next to your name. So
also, for what it's worth, Matthew scored in 46 games.
Okay, so he's right. 45 games. That was his guess. So we have 4 guys who could all be a number 1 goalie for Team USA, right? And I think Thatcher Demko, when healthy, is as good as any goalie on the planet. But who knows there? For Canada, I'm going to ask you to put your Team Canada GM hat on. Who's starting for you for Team Canada in the 4 Nations Cup and goal? And I'll give you a couple of numbers right now. Canadian goaltenders numbers in the NHL right now. Number 1 is Montembeault. He's got a 317 and a 909. Number 2, Binnington, a 304 and an 891. Number 3, Aiden Hill, a 381 with an 851. And then next is Cam Talbot at a 331 and a 907. And it just keeps going downhill from there. So if you're putting Team Canada together, Razor, who's starting for you open night with the big leaf on front of the jersey?
Well, I wish, and I'm actually surprised. I thought his number was going to be a lot higher when you read it off, but I'm going Jordan Binnington. He's the guy. He's the Stanley Cup winner. He played in the World Championships for Team Canada last year. It's amazing to me as I wear my American hat, but as a Canadian, that the goaltending has gotten to this place. There's obviously developmental issues from a young age. I think what's happened up there too is that, no one wants to be goalie anymore. When I played, it was Patrick Roy, it was Marty Brodeur. It was great to be a goalie. Roberto Luongo, the French connection, of course. Everyone wanted to be goalies. I don't think guys do anymore. They want to be Connor McDavid. But there's certainly a development issue in Canada. But to answer your question, I'm starting Binnington. I think Montembeault can make a push, but he's got to stay this consistent. Like he's kind of the underdog. He's got to continue to play at a 909 or above average for 2 more months, I would think, to get on the team. Aiden Hill, Stanley Cup, I think you're going that route. It's not ideal, especially when you're looking across the ice at Team USA or Team Sweden and even Team Finland with what they have in goal.
Yeah, listen, I
the
think
good news is, right? The good news is it's a short tournament. So someone's going to get hot, and anyone of those guys, anybody in the NHL could quite honestly get hot for 10 days. It's not like you have to have this guy for the whole season.
Yeah. All right, Razor. Well, look, good luck tonight.
Thank you.
We'll check Razor out on because that game will stream too, right? Like you can get that on the NESN app as well, correct?
NESN app, and it'll be on YouTube in certain ways. I don't tech me on that, but
so keep an eye on Razor's social media. Hope maybe you'll put something out on Twitter today of all the different ways to watch. Yeah. And then also morning brew with Razor and Jaffe. They do a great job. We've had Billy on already this year. You obviously come on all the time. So if you really want to know what's going on with the Bruins, nobody's really closer to it than those 2 guys. So make sure you check out Morning Brew pretty much anywhere where you get a podcast and YouTube. Same thing, right, Razor?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
And Vic said it's just going to be 3 hours of Leaf nightmares tonight on the Altcast with those guys on. So I guess take it easy on the Leafs tonight.
Well, it's the last thing I want to say before you go. You brought this up with goaltending in the playoffs, and you brought up 2011. The Boston Bruins are not Stanley Cup champions in 2011 without Tim Thomas. And I mean, I will die on that hill 7 days a week. Maybe I think Tuukka is an all-star. I mean, the guy was unbelievable, but what Tim Thomas did in that playoff run, the saves that he made in overtimes and game 7s, the amount of saves that no human in the world should ever make that he made during that 4 rounds of the playoffs. I've never seen anything like it. It's not even close if the team pulls it off without him, in my opinion. And I had a front row seat, on the 9th floor, eating my popcorn every night, watching as a healthy scratch. But the guy was incredible. He was worth any and every penny in that playoff run.
That's what you need. That's what you need. You need that save. And even more so back then. Now you can score more goals. Now we have 5-on-3s in the playoffs, but certainly back then, every game was 1-0.
Yeah.
Except when it was in Boston, it was 12-0.
Well,
that's a whole other story.
All right, Razor, have a great day, man. Thanks for coming on. We always appreciate your time.
You got it, guys. Love it. Yeah, thanks.
Thank
Good
you.
talking.
All right, Colby, let's transition into our OutWest Worst Team of the Week, sponsored by our lovely friends over at OutWest. Colby and I are both rocking the hoodies right now. But OutWest fans, remember the Zakara Performance hoodie you know and love just got even better. We just dropped 5 fresh new colors to add some variety to your favorite hoodie lineup. The same premium performance fabric, same lightweight warmth, but now with even more ways to match your style. Whether you're hitting the links, the trails, or just hanging out, there's a new color waiting to fit your vibe. So head to our site now and grab the latest shades. Stay ahead of the curve with OutWest. Every game needs an outlaw. And remember, it's 15% off when you use our code Cuppa, CUPPA. Vic, I don't know if you have the little commercial queued up that I did. I was going to brag about myself, but I guess you don't. But let's go into the first clip.
Hold on. Before we talk about the OutWest Worst Team of the Week, I just want to say this to our chat. Thank you. I think today you guys have been awesome. Yeah. I know you're normally in it, but like that, we had a bunch of stuff planned to talk with Razor about that we honestly didn't even get to because we were kind of firing a lot of your guys' ideas off from the chat, which is kind of how this is really supposed to be. You bring a guy like Razor on, just kind of want to let it go. And I never had to really look at my computer once, at my notes of what the things that I wanted to bring up with Razor was. So we appreciate the fact that you all are so active in our chat and you guys are bringing, good quality questions to the table today. The second couple of things I want to say is, first of all, if you're not subscribed to the Daily Faceoff YouTube page, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube page. We've got shows going on all day. We're always adding new shows to the lineup. It's growing here quickly since we restarted. We're already seeing a few hundred new subscribers. If you're in the episode today, make sure you give us a like on this episode. Again, we talk about the algorithms of YouTube. It really does matter. It really does help us. The third thing I will say is I received a new package of OutWest hoodies yesterday, the one that Johnny was just doing the read for. And I put on this heather blue OutWest hoodie. And I got to say, I think this is probably my new favorite. I love when they're fresh out of the package too. The arms fit. Like the fit on this is kind of my favorite because I'm always somebody who extra large is too big for, large is too small for. I'm like in between. But because this fabric doesn't shrink, it doesn't change when you wash it. And it's just such a nice, light, stretchy piece. Like I truly do live in these hoodies every single day. Dan, no, the salmon one, I did wear it a couple of times last year. It's not my jam, but the fact that they're coming out with heathers, Johnny's wearing more of a light blue heather. Mine is a little bit more of a dark blue heather, and I don't know what they're called on the website, but the new colors are awesome. They've got a white one with little black speckles. There's an all white one now that's more of like, it's almost like a white heather, which I really like, which I have upstairs. So, if you're somebody that got on board with OutWest last year during our show, the new colors are phenomenal. And I got some of the golf shirts this year. I liked the golf shirts, don't get me wrong, but this is my favorite piece of clothing. And you guys see, if you go back and look at the tapes, I think I wore it every day this week in a different color. I think I had it on every day because when it's 50 degrees outside in the morning, it's literally the perfect. It's not too heavy. It's not too light. It's perfect.
Yeah. And also I want to shout out Wes, who is the creator of OutWest. He's the one who came to New York, helped me film that commercial. He's also just such a sweetheart of a guy from South Dakota, really just started this business out of his family basement and has done an incredible job at making products and putting the name out there. I know Jeremiah actually has one of these sweatshirts too. So Jeremiah can speak to it, how comfy these things are. Literally, like We
All
wear
right.
these every day. But
The
what
best.
you're gonna tell me? All right, you just talk for
No,
5 minutes.
no. I'm saying I agree. Like, no, totally. I'm not. I wasn't saying it in a cut you
You're
off
cutting
type
me
of
off?
way. No, yeah.
Yeah, you were.
Put your hand up when
Don't
you
give
want
me
to
that.
talk. All right.
Don't give me that shit.
People are asking, is the logo the Pringles guy? No, the logo is like this little cowboy.
Yeah.
The logo is the coolest part with a
an
big
outlaw.
mustache. I think you should try to grow a big muzzy like that, like the
I can't.
Forsberg muzzy.
I can't do that.
Really?
But
all right. So who is our
yeah, we
OutWest
had-
Worst Team of the week?
we had some guesses. I think I saw Dan saying it has to be the Islanders.
Everybody thinks it's the Islanders.
I
And
know.
we did discuss the Islanders as the worst team of the week, but we went with Philly. This week's
I
worst
think-
team of the week, we went with Philly. The Islanders could have been worst team of the week, but we figured they were on national TV last night. The night before, they were the kickoff for the Frozen Friendly. They give up 2 shorthanded goals.
They've
You
also
know, I
lost
mean,
6 straight.
It's like 6 losses in a row. Things are not good there in Philadelphia. I don't know. Like it was it was easy for me to say the Flyers as the worst team of the week.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Islanders, listen, while they're, struggling to score goals, they're still 2-2-2. Like their record isn't all that bad.
Yeah.
Obviously when you look at it, they're 2-4 because the overtime losses and whatnot. But I mean, Philly losing 6 straight games, it's hard to.
Yeah,
pick
you're getting
anyone else.
points in 2 of those 4 losses for the Islanders. Let's roll the Torts clip last night and then get into the whole player coach dynamic thing. So this was a clip from John Tortorella at the end of the game last night. We're gonna play it for you here, and then we'll tell you why we want to talk about it.
There's still some life in them.
Oh yeah. Seals we have those once a game. That's we're discussing hockey plays, right? And certainly not going to tell you what we're talking about, but that's all part of it. You guys and you guys will probably make a big deal out of it, right? All of this, you make a big deal. All it is 2 men that care about what's going on the ice. I love that guy, and that stuff that's good for us. But you guys will make a big deal out of it.
Well, it's also a good teaching point, right?
We were talking about a certain play on the goal.
I love all of yous. All of yous. I love that line.
John, why don't you give them a little background on what it is that they're talking about?
He was talking about Steeler, right?
Okay, so him and Nick Steeler had a very animated exchange on the bench. There was a little bit of a shouting match that happened between the 2 of them after a play. And look, Torts is not wrong. This happens on an NHL bench every single day. It happens in practice every single day. And the media is generally what makes a big deal about it. And what you have to understand is go ahead.
No, that's the media's job, though. You're supposed to ask the questions and then get the clarification from the coach. Like what is the media supposed to do? Just ignore that happened?
No, you're not. But when you then go and you write a story about something, because it's not a story, it happens every day.
Yeah.
You just don't see a lot of it. Players and coaches get into it all the time. These are grown men. These are adults. Players have their own kids. Coaches have their own kids. Like sometimes Spencer Carberry's 42 years old. Alexander Ovechkin is what, 38, 39, yeah, maybe like 38 or 39. They're 3 or 4 years apart in age. Okay, these guys are peers, right? How about a good point by Josh Holt in the chat? Nobody talking about Marchand and Jim Montgomery. That happened on their bench the other night. These are things that happen all the time on an NHL bench. And a lot of coaches like it. Bruce Cassidy, who I played for, he loved when a player came back at him, right? Because he knows that player's alive, that player cares, there's passion. Sometimes it pisses a coach off when they yell and scream at you about something and you look at them with like a dead look in your face. It pisses a coach off. You ever have a coach like that?
Yeah, but I was always taught never to talk back to a coach. So like it's a give and take kind of thing, right? Like typically you want to say like, coach, you're right. You're right. Like I'll fix it next time or whatever.
Right.
But like I can't remember a time where I yelled back at a coach, but I'm also a bitch.
Yeah, well, that's true. But I don't know if it's necessarily talking back. Like I wouldn't ever recommend responding to a coach with like a sarcastic or like if you're going to do it, shout back at him. Like,
yeah, I never had that happen.
This may sound dumb to you, to everybody in the chat. It may sound dumb to people, but I promise you there's a difference. Like if Bruce Cassidy's yelling at me and I sit there and I go, I got it, Bruce, I hear you. Like that's to me talking back. And that's where he might, smack me or grab my helmet or something. You can't do that anymore. But Jack, look, I had coaches that weren't afraid to grab you and do that kind of stuff. But it's different.
I will say one. I will say one story. So this is my freshman year. I was in the power play, Colby. I was in the first unit at UMass my freshman year. We're playing BC at home in a whiteout game. In our building, the Mullen Center. I get the puck in the slot, and instead of shooting it, with my nerves obviously being the first unit, you want to defer to the other guys on the power play, right? So I saw Austin Plevy teed up for a one-timer right at the dot, and I tried to fake the shot, pass to him. It gets picked off. BC comes and scores a shorthanded goal. Like 5 minutes into the game, the crowd gets taken out of it. Carv comes into the locker room in between the first and second period. This is Coach Carvel, who's still the coach at UMass right now. The first thing he says when he walks in the door, "If I was the captain of this team, I'd take Jonny Lazarus by his head and put it through the fucking wall." I just didn't know what to say. I was so scared. I mean, listen, and that's Carv. Carv's an intense coach.
Yeah.
But I have all the respect in the world for Carv. That's just but that's how these dynamics work, right? I was terrified. I was
put your tail between your legs in the worst way ever known.
I was a freshman,
Oh my God.
10 games into my college
career.
What?
Can I say something? And I like Carv too. I have a great relationship with Carv. I don't agree with that. I don't think you single out a freshman in their first game. And I guarantee you, if you ask Carv about that today,
he
would regret doing that.
Yeah.
Because he's learned that this is not, Carv comes from the NHL, which is different. Okay. And again, I guarantee you he would regret doing that. It's one thing to do that to a junior, a sophomore even, or a senior, but to do that to a freshman in their first game, I don't like that. I think you have to pick and choose your spots. Look, I'm dealing with it now with the junior players. You can't treat a guy who's your seventh defenseman when he makes a mistake. You can't treat him the same way you're treating a guy who's been in the league for 200 games. You're trying to build the one guy up. The other guy you got to think has a little more elasticity in the way that you can address them and talk to them. So.
That's the whole accountability thing, right?
That's how it works a little, even for me, I'd say that's a little rough coming from Carv. Look, Jack Parker came for me so many times in my college career. Even in the years that I was having the year I was an All-American, he came for me harder the year I was a first-team All-American than any other year. And because he knew I was a junior, I could take it. He knew he could make an example out of me. I wasn't going to put a tail between my legs. I certainly wasn't lacking confidence. So he knew how to play it. So again, not a big deal. Didn't Singsy, Johnny's drawers had some elasticity. Not the biggest deal in my opinion, this whole thing. I think Torts likes it. I really do. And I think we move on, but that's why the Flyers are our worst team of the week, Johnny.
Yeah. And shout out to Jeremiah. I just saw that he bought 3 more OutWest hoodies because they're awesome, like the boys said. Thank you, Jeremiah. We appreciate it. And things he just said, Colby mentioned his college career. Everyone drink.
Johnny brought us there, so
I did bring it up. So I'll take the guilt for that. But
if you guys drink this early in the morning when I do that kind of stuff, you're gonna be drunk before 9 a.m. All right, you might start pounding it during the pregame show, Singsy, at 8:45. You and Merles can start taking a cheers or two.
Maybe when we do our playoff shows on Fridays, we can find an alcohol sponsor.
Irish coffee.
Yeah,
I will say, I'm not a big coffee drinker, but I do like an Irish coffee. I am a fan. If you'll liquor up a coffee for me, a little Marathon Monday morning or something like that, or a little, early start football game or something, I'll go for a nice little orange coffee. But Johnny,
I wonder how the network would feel about that if we did that.
Poe Dagan Stoner, who's coming to us from Colorado with his second reference. He says morning bong rip a hockey. That might be happening in Johnny's apartment.
That does not happen in my apartment.
Not for me. I'm a dad, so I can't be doing that kind of stuff. So all right, let's get to Fountain Tire. Let's give a little USHL, CHL update, Johnny. Let's keep moving along here.
Yeah. All right. So we'll talk CHL and USHL, NCAA, that whole debacle going on. But first, let's give a shout out to our sponsor, Fountain Tire. You and your family's safety is important, and Fountain Tire specializes in tire and auto service, and you don't have to settle for a good deal or good customer service because at Fountain Tire, they do both. They'll treat your vehicle like it's their vehicle, and if you need new tires or maybe your engine has a little rattle, stop into Fountain Tire and they'll sort you out. And right now, you can save up to $225 on a set of 4 select tires, including Goodyear till December 14th. Plus, save $50 more on any service of $150 with some restrictions applying. Stop in a Fountain Tire or make an appointment. Check out fountaintire.com. It's always funny. The word vehicle, I feel like Canadians use that. Obviously, Fountain Tire is more of a Canadian company. I don't think I've ever said the word vehicle in my life until I read it. When have you referred to a car as a vehicle in your life, Colby? And the American people in our chat, ever?
I've used the word vehicle before.
I never say it. It like just doesn't come out of my mouth naturally, I feel like.
Yeah. All right. So you want to give us a little update on CHL, USHL from your pal yesterday?
Yes. So our friend Jeff Marek, friend of the show, typically in the chat. I've been talking to Jeff like every day, honestly, about this topic. But Jeff put out a tweet yesterday saying this: sometime before the season began, both the Youngstown Phantoms and the Muskegon Lumberjacks formally approached the OHL about joining the league. No word about where it stands now or how it would/could happen, but there were conversations. Given that nobody knows exactly how the junior hockey/NCAA landscape is going to end up looking like, expect more surprising stories to pop up as players, teams, and leagues jockey for stable position.
Yeah, well,
I think they're in like 5 years from now, we're just going to have one tier 1 junior league between Canada and the United States with how this is trending.
Listen, I mean, I would love that. I think it's a lot. I don't think so, just because of the way that these are all set up and individually owned, and the money that's coming from the NHL. Like the OHL and the CHL gets paid $10+ million a year from the NHL. The USHL gets not even a fraction of that. So the NHL does not support financially the USHL like they do the CHL. Why? I don't know, because the USHL is producing players at the same clip at this point. But I guess it's because the NCAA is a step in between. I think, first off, I can confirm what Jeff said. I didn't know about this, and then I went right to the source and asked, and it was confirmed to me that this conversations did happen. I don't think they were looking to leave the USHL. I think it was more on a looking for cooperation and partnership, and potentially finding a way to have a broader tournament at the end of the year for a junior team to see who is the best junior team in North America. But it is an interesting development and an interesting scoop by Jeff. All signs are pointing to this, emergency legislation here in the next couple of weeks in November. And then, starting next year, we'll see it, but still a lot of questions, still a lot of things to work out. And it's a situation, Johnny, that we're obviously monitoring quite closely here with our connections to college hockey. You're calling more college games this weekend, and so on and so forth. So we'll keep you up to date on the situation, because it really does affect the NHL. It affects the CBA. It affects rookie entry-level contracts. It affects what players potentially are going to end up being allowed to play in the AHL that weren't before. So there is a lot of dominoes that will fall that will greatly affect the National Hockey League. And so we're not just kind of, talking about things that you guys won't, want to be aware of and want to be brought up to speed on.
Yeah, this is going to be a big story as the whole thing progresses, especially when you have teams that are looking to leave the USHL. And for what reason, I'm not sure of. Colby, why would Muskegon and, I'm blank on the second team, and Youngstown want to leave the USHL right now?
Did you? I assume you weren't listening when I just.
No, I was. But what is the?
You can't multitask. I said I don't believe. My understanding of the situation is that they were not looking to leave the USHL.
I'm asking you why they would want to, though. Like, why would that even be?
Well, why would you be looking for cooperation and partnership? I mean, because again, it's all one pool of players. North America is connected, and these are all the same age kids, 16 really to 20-year-old kids, although there's not many 16-year-olds in the USHL other than the US national teams, but kids. But why wouldn't you want cooperation? Why wouldn't you want partnership with those leagues? Why wouldn't you want an opportunity to expand and have all the best players in the same, playing under one quote unquote roof and under one set of rules and under one set of guidelines, and then working with the NHL all together? So why wouldn't you want that? And Tommy T, to answer your question, the USHL, the United States Hockey League, is the tier 1. It's the best junior league in the US. it's what feeds the NCAA, which, then it, turns around and feeds, into the National Hockey League. So it's, they get a lot of first, second, third, fourth, fifth. I mean, players in the draft, we had Glenn Heffron on, and he gave us the stats. The USHL's drafted players per team is as high as anywhere in the CHL. There's more teams in the CHL, so a lot more teams, one league versus three, but it's a really good league. It's producing a lot of high-end players, and I think as Singsy's pointing out, it would hurt the economics of hockey and centralize it in a way that will hurt small towns. Yes and no, Singsy. If you look at where most of the junior teams are, they're in small towns. So I don't know how it would affect the economics per se with travel but I think the NHL could start sharing development fees. And what I would say is look at where the USHL is. It's over Iowa, Nebraska. Look where the CHL and the WHL is. Hockey fans have heard of most of these places, but if I ask my wife, where's Peterborough or where's Medicine Hat or where, people haven't heard of any of these small towns in Canada, or not. Most people don't know where Des Moines is. Most people don't know where Kearney, Nebraska, what's Kearney or Sioux Falls, right? So I don't think it would hurt small towns, Singsy, because I think most of these teams are already in small towns. And if all of a sudden you're promoting this team coming to play in Medicine Hat or in small town up in Guelph, Ontario, or Owen Sound or wherever, or the Sioux or any of these places, I think if anything, you get more travel and you get more of a draw. So I don't know if it would necessarily. Kamloops, there's another good one.
Yeah.
Non-hockey people do not know where Kamloops is, right?
I don't even know where Kamloops is.
It's in Western Canada and British Columbia, I'm pretty sure. So, all right, Johnny, let's keep her moving here as we get into our bets, I think.
Yeah, let's get into our bet of the day presented by Bet365. We've won our last 2 in a row, looking to stay hot tonight, and we're very thankful that Razor came on the show today, but tonight we are fading his Boston Bruins as they host the Dallas Stars, looking to bounce back. Dallas coming off of a rough loss in Buffalo against the Sabres, looking for a bounce back game tonight in Boston. Boston's lost 2 in a row. They've also been on the road, so they're back from a road trip after playing the Colorado Avalanche, which they did win, and then losing to Utah and losing to Nashville most recently by the score of 4-0. I like Dallas in the money line in this game. I believe right now it's at -125 on Bet365. And a big part of that is right now both teams' power plays are struggling. They're both in the bottom half of the league, which is surprising because you look at Boston, you look at Dallas, you'd think they both have strong man advantages. But right now Dallas is at like a 9%. But I'm looking at the 5-on-5 and the goaltending right now. Ottinger's been much better than Swayman despite the last performance in Buffalo. And you look at Dallas's D-core, I think they're stronger than Boston's D-core. And the only line scoring for the Bruins right now is that fourth line. So if Dallas can shut down the Bruins' fourth line, they should find success tonight. I think it's a bounce back game for the Stars, and I like them on the money line. And the juice is not bad at -125. So we're looking for 3 straight to end the week. Dallas Stars money line. Any thoughts or concerns, Colby?
Look, Boston's got problems. It's going to be hard to score goals. Marshy, a couple of surgeries. I don't know where they're going to get their. I mean, obviously, Pasta's going to make plays, but I don't like the team speed and the way this Bruins team is built. They're built to be bullies, and in this modern day, you've got to be able to skate. So, I think that it'll be an interesting game tonight, and we'll see. I like Dallas as well. I don't like the way the Bruins are playing, although you got to think there's enough character in there for a little bounce back after a 4-0 shutout in Nashville. But we'll ride with you, Johnny. You've been having some pretty good success. So,
Tommy T's asking for any other bets because I guess those 2 teams have hexed him. I'll just give one more, and I'll say the St. Louis and Toronto over first period. Toronto's been scoring lights out in the opening frame, obviously not in Columbus the other night, but with them being back at home, St. Louis, Binnington has been a little bit iffy. I'm not sure who's starting in goal for Toronto tonight. It probably would be Stolarz if I had to guess, but I'd lean Toronto, St. Louis over first period. And that'll be it for our bet of the day presented by Bet365. Remember to open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets, whatever the sport, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. So use our code NATION, NATION, in all caps. Colby, any final thoughts before we wrap up today's show and the show for the week? We should have very exciting week next week. I know I know you and I, or mostly me, hyped up a guest for yesterday. I've been talking to that NHL player, and we're 90% sure we'll lock in next week. So it'll be
that NHL goaltender
that everyone would be excited to hear from. So stay tuned for that next week. And that's all I really got for today's show. Any final thoughts?
It was good week. It feels like we're finally back into the swing of things with our guests and bringing people on. The chat was riled up today, so we appreciate it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll say it again. It does a lot for us. So if you're here with us, give us a like as you're heading out for the day, for the weekend. Subscribe to the Daily Faceoff YouTube page. Let's keep bringing those numbers up. We'll keep getting you good guests. We'll keep getting you good content. And stick with us. So have a good weekend, everybody. We will see you at 9 a.m. Monday morning.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Saravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.